Jesus is the landlord. Jesus owns everything, and he's lent it all to us. People don't plan on their own death. Even though the mortality rate seems to be 100%, most people don't plan for that. After we're gone, who's going to carry out our wishes and take care of that?
Thank you for joining Mercy Today. How do mercy and compassion break down barriers and change everything? How do they bring hope? Be inspired as our guests share about the life-changing, soul-impacting work through the ministry of Mercy, Inc. and its partners. Here's your host, Dr. Dan Pritchett.
Well, hello again, and glad to welcome you to this episode of Mercy Today Radio. This is a program that is just so fulfilling and rewarding, and we broadcast this through podcasts and radio around the world, across the country. A lot of good things that we talk about and good things that we do here. What I get to do here in my spot here in the studio, I get to talk to people and guests, and we get to tell the story about how compassion changes everything. And in our world today, it's so important that we manifest compassion and caring and love to people around the world that we're called to reach and serve. So glad you joined us today, and we get to tell the work about Mercy, Inc. and its partners and friends. So the work of Mercy and its partners and friends is really an outreach work. It is reaching troubled people in difficult situations in various countries. And we're always thinking about how can we expand that work. For that matter, if we look at other mission organizations and church planters and missionaries and ministry organizations and even churches at home and abroad, how can we expand that work? What can we do to help it reach farther and reach deeper and do more? Well, we got to know that there are many key ingredients to make that work more effective. And it's no surprise that funding is a major factor. So the many ministries and churches that I've worked with over the years have that in common. And here's our statement. We usually say, we could do so much more if we had more to work with. That's the simple truth. So what if you, listener, what if you could spend a few hours and a few dollars and make a major impact on God's work that'll take effect after you graduate and go to heaven? What if you could do that without costing much in the way of time or money? So if you're interested, that's what we're going to talk about today. And so for this show, we have a perfect guest, an attorney, a pastor, and a missionary. Oh, but not three people, one people. Bill has extensive qualifications in all those areas, and I'm eager to get into our conversation with him. So the title of today's episode is, What You Leave Behind Depends on What You Do Now. And so in studio today is Bil Smith. He is, as I said, an estate planning attorney, a pastor, and a missionary. And I met Bill after recently hearing his commercial spot on a local Christian radio station. And now we've worked out the details, had our conversation, and set our plans, and now here he is in the studio. So, Bill, I want to welcome you to Mercy Today Radio. I'm glad you could make it to the studio today.
Thanks, Dan. Glad to be on.
We're going to move ahead. We've got lots to cover because of the qualifications and experience and education that you bring. So let's just jump right into it. So when we talk about stewardship, we talk about handling the resources that God has entrusted to our care from a biblical understanding. Help us start there. Let's lay a foundation, a biblical understanding of stewarding God's resources.
Well, I think that the thing that we need to understand is when we look at our stuff, it's really God's. Mm-hmm. Like everything is God's. When we claim that Jesus is Lord, what that means is Jesus is the landlord. Jesus owns everything, and he's lent it all to us. And what he expects from us is to use it wisely and to be good stewards of what it is that he has lent us in this short lifetime that we're here. Mm-hmm. And so that's the biblical basis, is just the first foundation is that God owns everything.
Right. No, I like that. And I would hope that listeners would be able to wake up in the morning and say, that table, that car that's out in the driveway, this house, everything, and just have that constant affirmation and reminder. Because God, even though we might use the term give, that God gave us these things, but it really is on loan. So maybe we're going to dip into this a little bit and pick it up a little bit later. Because God is God, he always has a purpose. So can you tell us, what is the general statement of purpose? Because he doesn't just have fun with this, bring it back when you're done. What is his purpose? What's his agenda? What is he trying to accomplish by entrusting you and me and others with the things that we currently have?
Well, I've always heard it said as that God blesses us so that we can bless others. And so if we can use those resources to bring about his kingdom and bring a blessing to all of those around us, that's really the key understanding that we need to have.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And again, I want to make sure this is really coming across clearly to our listeners, because they're saying, this might be new territory for you, listener. You might be thinking, well, I'm so glad God, blessed me with a home and with a family and good health and a job and whatever else. But to have that orientation and that foundation, it is for a purpose, and I am accountable. I am a steward. I'm a caretaker. And so that's good. So part of the stewardship is intentionally planning what we leave behind, and that's the name of our episode for today. What you leave behind depends on what you do now. So let me ask the so what question. Why does it matter what it is we leave behind? And then we'll get into the details about how we can have an intentional effect on that. How can we make sure that we're making, Christ-honoring biblical decisions about what we leave behind? But why is that important?
Well, just from an estate planning standpoint, and there's 3 types of estate plans. There's no plan, there's wills, and then there's trusts. Mm-hmm. And no plan ends up in the long run costing your estate way more money than one of the other 2 will. Now, in the short run, you have to pay some money for that. But when we do that, when we put together an estate plan, it's an efficient way so that your resources go to where it is that you want them to go.
Your choice. That's the big deal.
Right.
You're right.
So someone with a kingdom mindset, more money will go toward that kingdom purposes that they have if they have set up some sort of estate plan before they go. Right. If they've made no plan, then a lot of the money that they have acquired, a lot of the assets that they have acquired over their lifetime, that's going to go to pay for lawyers, pay for the courts, pay for bonds and things like that wouldn't be necessary if they had some sort of plan in place.
Right. And whatever is left over may go to some place that you didn't really intend for it to go to.
Right.
Right. Okay. So you use the term, and I want to pick up on that, kingdom mindset. So, you go to church on Sunday, you read your Bible, do your devotionals, whatever your Christian life is like, and you might have told somebody, maybe a spouse or a child or somebody else or your pastor, gosh, when I leave this world, I just want to make sure that some of those resources go either to the church or to a mission organization or a ministry or, any kind of thing that we have. And, having said that, is that enough? You can have a kingdom mindset and you tell somebody, and so you're good to go, right?
You can't just tell somebody. If you don't leave a specific plan in place, if you don't have a will in place, if you don't have a trust in place, if you don't have something in place beforehand, then the government's going to decide of where your assets go. There's default rules that the court is going to go by, and the court's going to set that, and the court isn't going to leave any of that to your church or to an organization that's doing kingdom work.
And my question was really a setup, because it's not right, because having believed it or having said it is not enough. And when you talk about a will or a trust, you're talking about paper. You're talking about a legal document. You're expressing your intention and your desire. You sign it, you pay the lawyer, and you get it done. You notarize it or whatever you have to do, right? So you lock it in. Okay, so maybe I've experienced this maybe on this end of it, maybe more than you have, and that is on the receiving end. A church or a project or a homeless shelter or a ministry or a mission of some kind that is working on whatever funds they have. But what if occasionally they could receive a deposit of tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars because somebody had the foresight and intention and did the thing, and did the papers and included your organization or your church How have you seen some examples of that you can share with us?
I have for years. I served as a youth pastor in a church.
Yeah. Okay.
And when I was a youth pastor in Southern California, a gracious donor, when they had passed on, had left some money toward our youth ministry that was to go directly to kids going to camp.
Yeah.
And through those kids going to camp that wouldn't have the money to go otherwise, several of them came to know the Lord along the way. So it's a real blessing just from that side.
Yeah. On my end of things, I call that leverage. I mean, you can pay for kids to go to camp, but if you can leave some money, there will be more residual, be ongoing pool for people to draw from. And then the spiritual benefits from that just go on and on and on. Because who knows, one of those kids could have a real zeal for mission work or for a pastor or, you know what I mean? But it changes their life. And so that person, that donor, had that foresight, and what a great blessing for them to be able to meet somebody in heaven, say, I'm here because of you and the gifts that you gave. That's fantastic. So thank you. I appreciate that. We're going to move on to a slightly different area, but I want to see if there's anything left on that. Having a kingdom mindset. In fact, why don't you do this, Bill? What is a kingdom mindset?
Well, a kingdom mindset is when you see your purpose in life is to serving God. And that's when we make Jesus Lord of our life, we're saying, Jesus, you're in charge.
Yeah.
And whatever you want, and when we read the Gospels, we see what it is that Jesus wants. He wants us to care for the poor and the sick, and he wants us to follow him in doing his work, being his hands and his feet here in the world. So that's what a kingdom mindset's all about.
I like that. After the break, I'm going to ask you some questions about being clear about what it takes. What is the process? How do we do that? And I know you're going to have some good answers. So we'll be right back, folks.
I'm Brad Swinford with Salem Concrete Paving. It's a privilege to partner with Mercy, Inc., who provides hope to people around the world by meeting critical needs and introducing people to Jesus. I know that through Mercy, Inc., I'm investing in God's kingdom as they spread the love and gospel of Christ around the world. So please join me in supporting Mercy, Inc. and MercyToday Radio by praying or going to their website at MercyToday.global. Thank you.
This is Doug Hoffman, the Executive Director for Mercy, Inc. I want to introduce you to our Mercy Minutes. Today I'm going to take you to South Asia. And as we look at South Asia, we've planted over 4,100 water wells for drinking water and for cattle. And as those wells have gone into villages, they've transformed lives. Because before that, oftentimes the job of bringing water home fell on the mother or the wife. And sometimes she would walk for an hour to get to clean water. That's one way, and then walk for an hour back. All of a sudden, she had more time to spend with her children. All of a sudden, she had more time to be able to have conversation. There was more time with which we could share Christ with her. More time to learn more about who Jesus really is. It's empowering.
Now's the time to become a part of something greater in our community. You and your organization can partner with Mercy Today and change the lives of thousands around the world. Our team of business professionals can also come alongside you and help you grow your organization to maximize your impact. Our goal is to help you increase your quadruple bottom line: people, planet, profit, and purpose. Consider being a sponsor of Mercy Today. Visit our website at MercyToday.global.
Businesses can partner with this program and fund missions. Go to MercyToday.global and click on the Business Resources link. We are back, and in studio today I'm talking to Bil Smith, and I've been introducing him as an estate planning attorney and a pastor and a missionary, and I just love that combination. This man is driven by the principles we just talked about having a kingdom mindset. And everything he does revolves around nurturing that kingdom work and providing for it in a number of different ways. And I'll probably say this again, but as we're talking about making estate plans and make sure that you are intentional with the documentation that you leave behind and expressing your wishes, And you are listening to Mercy Today Radio, and I just want you to be thinking, and I mean this seriously, thinking about the work of mercy that does around the world. And you probably want to get some more information. We have people that you can talk to get the kinds of projects and partners that Mercy is engaged with. And I urge you to prayerfully consider Mercy as one of the places where you would like to leave some of your resources so God's kingdom work can go on. So I want to get into it again, Bill, with you. And I've got 3 P's written down here: the process, the paperwork, and the price. So let's do that. The process. Where do we start, and what steps do we take in this estate planning?
Well, I think the first thing that you can do that's productive is contact an estate planning attorney.
Okay.
Someone like me, and they'll probably have some paperwork for you to fill out that that will help you understand, okay, who's going to take care of my kids if we're gone?
Right.
Who's going to take care of the money?
Now you mean minor kids or guardianship?
Right, minor kids.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one thing that younger couples have to be concerned about is who's going to take care of our kids?
Right.
And then who's going to, after we're gone, who's going to carry out our wishes and take care of that? And then having some alternates behind that is another thing that's very important, because what if that person dies before you do? What if that person's unable to? What if that person's, for whatever reason, can't do it or doesn't want to do it?
Right.
Then you need to have the alternates in place behind that as well.
Right. Well, life happens and things change.
Sure.
So if you make an estate plan today and 20 years from now you die, and then life is different, so it might not be the same people. So you have your backups, and maybe you can explain how to do that. What I'm hearing you say, Bill, is that it's intention, but it's also taking action and actually deciding. So how would a person, or maybe a couple, prepare for such a meeting with that attorney? In other words, we talk through what causes we care about, what mission organizations, or what we would like our resources to go to. I mean, you don't want to just sit down and having had that first conversation in the lawyer's office, right? You want to talk about it ahead of time, or think if you're single. Can you address that?
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of times, a couple, when they come in, they need a framework. They need to know what it is that they're talking about and what's important to them.
Right.
And we don't make our best decisions on the fly. So if we get paperwork, from an estate planning attorney, and every estate planning attorney I know has some paperwork that you fill out that helps you think through these things.
Okay.
What do I want my legacy to be? Where do I want my money to go? Who do I want controlling that after I'm gone?
Right.
That type of thing.
What do I value? What are my priorities? And so if you have a kingdom-minded person, such as you as an attorney, and meeting with a kingdom-minded client or couple, then you've got a good match, and you can have those conversations. I just want to insert here, I've been on the receiving end in ministries that I was participating in, even a church. Even a small church can do this kind of a thing. And for a small church that has an annual budget of, say, $100,000 or $200,000, maybe they're meager means, but if even a $10,000 deposit comes to them, it's amazing how excited they can get about doing God's work with even a small, relatively small. I mean, I've also seen that estate planning, the payout can come to an organization or to a church, and they can build an education wing, or they can start, I think you were referring to a youth ministry, or they can fund a missionary. There's a lot of things that they could do that they ordinarily, week to week, month to month, either don't or can't allocate. But it just gets a hubbub around the staff meetings. Oh my gosh, here's the check, or here's the amount that's coming. Let's dream and pray about what we could do with that, and it would be a wonderful, glorious surprise. And those are all good opportunities for people to develop and expand their ministries,
and to help people who have a kingdom mindset and who are wanting to give in their estate.
Right.
Like, that's a real joy for me to do that work too. And I always give a discount, if they have a charitable intent with what they're leaving behind.
That reminds me, I want to say this too. You and I had this conversation, and you are what we call a covenant partner with us. So we will be supporting your work, and we want people to contact you I'll give an information in just a minute. But you said, I only have one client. So can we go back into that little conversation? What did you mean by that?
That's what I always say about my firm is that I have one client,
Right.
and I take care of all his kids that he sends to me.
Yeah, I like that.
I want to be reminded that my life is about serving the Lord,
Right.
and I do everything I can. So when I'm working for a client, I'm actually working for the Lord. You know, I take that passage in 1 Corinthians very seriously.
Very seriously, yeah. That's great. That's another reason why I just want to encourage people to call you and to have that initial conversation, see if there's a match. I like that that concept. So process. Are you done with the process part? I mean, you get paperwork, you make an appointment, you have a conversation, and then what do you actually do? What is the paperwork that needs to come out of those meetings?
Well, depending on someone's situation, I said earlier, there's 3 types of estate plans. Mm-hmm. There's no plan, which doesn't involve me. You don't need me for that one.
Right.
And it usually ends in some sort of disaster. But, and then there's wills, and then there's trusts.
Okay.
And so when I meet with the clients, I try to figure out what's best for them and their situation right now. Would they be better in a will, or would they be better with a trust? Now, a trust costs a little bit more, but there's a lot of advantages to a trust that, could be beneficial to an estate to have that rather than just have a will. And some people, they're better off having a will. So it's kind of, I do a diagnosis of their legal situation to figure out what's best for them.
Lead them to the best choice for them.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. And we won't dig into those comparisons and so forth because that's for another time, and anybody can call you and you can walk through that with them. Now, it's very possible in the age of the internet, you can go online and download a state-specific will and sign it up, and there you go. I mean, maybe it's not quite that simple, but can you address that? I mean, why don't I just express my wishes somewhere and just do it online?
Well, we live in this do-it-yourself world, this DIY world where people can do almost anything that they find on the internet. But I like to compare this to like a pharmacist. Like most people wouldn't DIY their medications, right? They want a professional working on it.
Right.
And I think that this is critical too. I mean, you're talking about everything that you own.
Yeah.
Why would you trust that to something that you downloaded off the internet? The internet can't go through that analysis that I just told you about when a client comes to me. If we figure out what the best package is for them, what they need. And oftentimes these do-it-yourself, it doesn't end up going the way they think it's going to go. And their family ends up in my office. What do we do with this mess now? Right. And then I have to sort it out. And it costs a lot more to sort it out after you're gone than to sort it out before.
So we're looking at the clock here, and the engineer is telling me that we are about done and need to wrap up. So what I want to do is I want to throw Bill a couple of final questions, and I want to say to our listeners that when you go to the podcast version, not the radio, but the podcast, we're going to do an AfterWords. So we'll have more conversation after that. So Bill, help us finish out with quick answers to these quick questions. Why do some people never get their estate planning done?
I think people don't expect to die. I think that's just people don't plan on their own death. Even though the mortality rate seems to be 100%, most people don't plan for that. Just this week, I started a probate for a young woman, 47 years old, died of COVID, no estate plan in place. And so I've been helping her family work through that. Nobody plans to leave this earth at 47. I'm 47 years old. So no one plans to leave earth then, but God has a different timetable than what we do.
Yeah. Okay. Before we get away, I want people to contact you. Whether they're out of the region, we can find maybe a referral, but certainly in our area, in Oregon, Portland. You're licensed in Oregon and Washington?
That's correct.
Okay, so give us your website clearly.
Well, it's thesmithlo.com, thesmithlo.com.
Yeah, contact him. He's good. We're learning more about him. So we have been talking in studio here with Bil Smith, the estate planning attorney / pastor / missionary And we're wrapping it up here. And so thank you, Bill, very much. And I've enjoyed having you here, the conversation we've had before we even got here. And I hope people will contact you because there's a lot of things that they need to learn and need to work through. It's not easy and it's not necessarily fun, but it is enriching when you think, gosh, honey, if you're talking spouse, what good things we can do when we're done with whatever resources we have. So Bil Smith, estate planning attorney, what you leave behind depends on what you do now. And so, again, I want to thank you for driving the miles and being here. It's been a delight. Thank you, Bill.
It's been a pleasure, Dan. Thank you.
Great. Appreciate it. God bless you.
We'll be back with more Mercy Today right after this.
How do you multiply your time, talent, and treasures? By investing in Mercy Today. Whether it's going on a mission outreach halfway around the world or sharing your insights and experiences with others in our local community, our team of business professionals can help you multiply what God has given you. We can help you grow your organization so that you and your fellow work associates can utilize your talents for even greater causes as you multiply your resources to do even more. Join us and become a sponsor of Mercy Today. Visit our website at mercytoday.global. Have you been looking for new ways to grow your organization and have a lasting, eternal impact? Mercy Today has an amazing team of business professionals that have managed small businesses to large corporations, and we want to share that know-how and experience with you. We're also committed our lives to sharing the gospel with compassion and serving the practical needs of communities around the world. Partner with us and become a sponsor of Mercy Today. Visit our website at mercytoday.global.
All right. I really enjoyed having Bill in the studio. He wears those hats and he wears them well. He's very good at what he does. We've had a number of conversations before even getting to the studio here. If you have questions about estate planning, anything specific or anything general, anything you need to gather up into your mind and kind of get ready to do that estate planning, I hope you will do it. And in fact, I'm happy to recommend Bil Smith, and he'll serve you well. He'll put things together for you, ask you lots of questions. And I'd encourage you to contact him, The Smith LO, and that's for law office, thesmithlo.com. But folks, I'm really serious about this because I've said it a lot, we're playing for all the marbles, and it's all about eternity. It's all about kingdom work. And so this is such a critical area of our lives, and so I hope you'll do that. So encourage you to go to our website, mercytoday.global. Go to the Contact Us form and fill that out. Let us know if you have questions or suggestions or comments. We'd love to help you out. mercytoday.global. God bless you, my friend, and goodbye for now. Okay, this is the time we dig back into the subject and maybe bring in some things that we didn't have time for because of the radio time restrictions. And this is called the AfterWords. So we have the before words, the during words, and now the afterwards. One thing I wanted to mention as we get into it, and Bil Smith's still in the studio here, and we're going to dialogue a little bit more. He's a wealth of knowledge and very fine, what I want to say, a man of character and honesty. And that's the kind of attorney I want to go to. In fact, that's the kind of pastor I want to have and the kind of missionary that I'd like to send out into the field. So we're smiling at each other across the table here. But what I want to say is this. Not too long ago, I did some of this estate planning, and I had made some decisions about what I wanted to do. And most of my purpose in life and, transitioning resources has to do with supporting mission work and missions. And so I kind of had that list down there, and I had already made some plans for my memorial service. Not that I'm sick, but in fact, my doctor said, I just don't know how much longer you're going to live. And he kind of winks because, who does? But anyway, I just want to say how urgent this is for our listeners, Bill, because it's critically important. So I even had a singer. I had a guy who was ready to, he would, if he outlives me, then he would sing at my memorial service. So what I'm getting to is this. After having all that, I was really excited about what was going to happen, in the wake of my passing, my graduating, going to heaven. And I had this thought, man, I can hardly wait to die because of all the good things that will take place afterwards. But I felt like I had things taken care of. I felt that I knew where whatever God had entrusted to me was going to continue on and be in good places. and be what you talked about, like whether it's the kids' camp or whatever. So I want our people to get a little vision of that, so that they can say, man, I'm not sure I want to get to the point where I can hardly wait to die, but to feel satisfied and to feel like you've taken care of things and you've made it official. A little note on the fridge isn't going to do it, right? Unless it's notarized, I suppose. But, all right, so before I bring you back in, I want to say this. This is a rhetorical question. If you want to raise your hand and answer it, how much did Howard Hughes leave behind? By the way, that's an example of going on and on and on and on and on. I'm not sure it's even settled yet. But do you know how much he left behind?
I don't know the exact figure, but
I know the exact figure.
What's the exact figure?
All of it.
Yeah, right.
Every last penny.
Every dime.
Yes, and that's our focus here. So let's go back just a little bit to anybody who's thinking, well, maybe next year, or maybe when I'm a little older, or maybe when we see how things work out. Tell our people why it's important to do it now.
Well, I brought up this example of this family that came to my office in the last couple of weeks. Mom was 47 years old, died of COVID. She wasn't expecting to go. She had not put a plan together of any sort, and it's complicated. She has 3 kids, and there's 2 different fathers involved, and she had a longtime life partner that she had been living with, and they had been putting money together into the house, but the house was in her name. And so by her not leaving anything like this, there's a mess. And her family is going to have to go through a lot to get that taken care of. And so, one of the just small things that you can talk about is most estate plans, when they put together, they make it so that the family doesn't have to purchase a bond. The courts will often require, if there's no will or anything, that the personal representative puts forth a bond. And those bonds cost money. Like in this situation, it's going to be near $1,500. Well, we could have put together a great estate plan for her for less than that, and her estate would have had more money in the end. And now, because there's no will in place, there's going to be an extensive probate that's going to involve me as a lawyer, that's going to involve court fees and all kinds of things that could have been avoided had she put an estate plan together before she was gone. Yeah.
And the other thing, besides the cost and the time, she may have had a different idea about distribution rather than what it ended up to be. Would you say that that's likely true?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Especially, we live in a complicated society now where divorce is prevalent and kids outside of marriage is prevalent and things like that. And the rules that the court has weren't set up for all these complicated situations. Right. So we just morph them to that, and it's usually not what the person would have intended or would have wanted, but that's not taken into consideration. They just go by the rules of the court if there's no plan in place.
Yeah. And I think that's the key. If God has moved in our lives in such a way to draw us to have an interest and a conviction about his work, whether it's our local church or a charity of some kind or a mission organization, we want to exercise, that stewardship, and it's not good enough to have a conviction or to wishing and a hoping. You have to put it down. I guess that's what we're getting at. Thank you very much for that. And I hope that you will contact Bill and answer questions that he'll do for you and talk about the documentation, the information that he'll need to have in order to make that plan for you. thesmithlo.com.
That's right.
Right? Okay, good. So before we leave the issue of cost, I know there's some tax implications, whether you have a plan in place or not. Can you just briefly address that?
I think with bigger estates, there's a lot of things that we can do to avoid what's been termed the death taxes or inheritance taxes.
Right.
And in Oregon, we have anything that's over $1 million, which sounds like a lot, but when you start figuring out what houses are worth today, and you start figuring your property and that type of stuff in there, you get to $1 million pretty quick, and that's going to be taxed at a certain percentage by the state of Oregon. And a lot of that can be done and taken care of in place, so less money goes to the government or no money at all if they have a plan in place.
Right. Okay. It is a big way to legally avoid the taxation that would otherwise come and take a lot of that stuff that you were intending to leave behind.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So there are examples in your practice of those who have been very diligent and have put their wishes down, and they have the documentation has survived, and so they're able to see the results of their planning. And there are those who have the family says. There is no will. So maybe an example or two about the difference between doing it and not doing it.
Sure, absolutely. If someone comes with no plan, like I talked about the 47-year-old woman who passed away, then the first time that I see them is when they come to my office and they want me to do a probate. And a probate is a court function that happens after somebody is gone, where the court decides where the court oversees the personal representative passing out the assets to somebody. Now, one of the ways to avoid that, to avoid probate, is that you have a trust. If you have a will in place, you still have to go through probate, and the court still oversees that. But having a will in place is much better than not having a will in place, because that was one of the things we talked about earlier is the bond. And so the families that have come into my office and have put that into place, they've saved their estate enough money to pay for what it would cost to get the will put into place. The people who have come in with the trust, and the beauty of the trust is there's no probate. So you don't have to hire a lawyer.
Okay.
You don't have to pay the court fees. You don't have to do things like that. So the family that comes in and has this planned ahead and they put everything into a trust, when they're gone, the successor trustee just comes and passes everything out.
Yeah.
And there's no court, there's no lawyers,
Right.
there's no anything like that. It just gets taken care of.
Right. No guessing, no uncertainty.
Right.
It's written down, it's legal, then you just follow that.
Right.
Yeah. So there is a difference between a will and a trust. And maybe in layman's terms, can you make that clear for us?
There's more to a trust.
Okay.
Like, it takes longer to do. There's more documents involved, and so it costs a little bit more. But like I said earlier, you get to avoid the probate. So
Right.
you spend a little money on the front end and you save money on the back end. I like to say, I'm like the car mechanic. You go to the car mechanic, your car starts clunking and making some noises. You take it in the car mechanic, he says, well, you got to get this fixed. He doesn't care if you get it done right then or not, because his philosophy is, you'll pay me now or you'll pay me later, and you'll pay me a lot more later.
Right.
And so that's, if you decide not to do an estate plan now, that's fine. I'll do your probate later, and there's going to be a lot more work involved for me at that time.
Right.
I make more money, the courts make more money, everybody makes more money, and your estate has less.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's cut and dried. Speaking of that, let's go here. Some people might be thinking, well, gosh, if we try to take care of all that, it's going to be, $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 to get all that legal documentation and everything. Can you set the mind at peace a little bit and kind of bringing that into a perspective for the cost? What would it cost for a person to come in, have the conversation, you to do the paperwork for, let's say, a will, and the same thing also for a trust?
For a couple to come in and get reciprocal wills, and they get powers of attorney and advance directives, all of that package, the base of that package is $1,500.
Wait, hang on a second. So I'm sure people have been thinking 10 times that.
Right.
$1,500.
$1,500.
Right. Okay.
Which will end up paying for itself, because you won't have to get a bond once they're gone. It pays for itself.
And it locks it in. It's secure. The court is mandated then to do things the way that those documents say to do it, with your signature and everything else. I mean, the client's signature.
That's correct.
Perfect. That was a will?
That's for a will package.
Okay. And a trust.
For a trust package is the base price is $3,000. Now, there's some other costs that can go into that. And I give discounts off those prices, if people have a charitable intent.
Yeah.
Like if they want to give some money toward Mercy Inc. or toward their church or toward some mission organization or something like that. If they have some charitable intent with significant charitable intent with their money, then I help set them up.
Great. That's an incentive. Not only to get it done, but to be specific and have your intentions down there. Okay. Perfect. I'm looking at my list because when we had a break, we had a little consultation here in the studio, several inputs. I have something else I want to get into, but let me go back to this. You gave the example of the 47-year-old and died without a will, and it was a mess. Can you flip that and call to your mind a person, anonymously, of course, but who did a good job and blessed a ministry? You did the youth camp thing, or that was one. Can you give us another one, an example that people could relate to that, gosh, if I take care of this, then I could, because that person, that couple or whoever that was that you could tell us about now?
There was a couple that came to me who they had been members of their church for years and years, and they had just been very faithful with everything that God had given them, and they had amassed some wealth. And they came in with a plan. They said, we've got this wealth. We want to give a certain percentage of it away. And I went through some options with them that they didn't even know existed out there. Like one of the options, like there's ways for you to give money now, and that money go into a trust of some sort, and you receive the residuals off that
while still living.
While still living,
yeah, there you go.
You're getting the money off of that,
right.
and then this money is designated for a gift to some charitable organization, and you get a tax break while you're alive, but you're still getting the residuals off that money.
Yeah.
Like there's all kinds of creative things. And they took the money that they had done that with, they received a tax break for 5 years, and then they passed on, and then that money went to bless a missions organization that just needed the money.
Yeah.
And it was a real blessing to them. And it worked out for both parties incredibly well. And it was a way to dual purpose their money, that they were able to expand their money more than what they would have had before.
Yeah. And to clarify, by taking that distribution while still living, that did not diminish or deplete the amount and that would go to the mission, right? So that's a win-win-win. It sounds
That was the dividends off the money that they had put in this fund.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of creative ways that can do that. The people that want to give,
right,
that to make that work.
And you're not going to learn that online necessarily.
No.
That's why an attorney
no.
such as yourself, Bill, is so critically important. Now, there are people in other regions of the country here that are going to hear this, and they're going to say, well, I would like to go talk to an attorney in my area, whether I'm in Minneapolis or Tallahassee or wherever. I know you have something of a kind of a referral base, and I don't want to assure anybody of anything in particular, but would you welcome a phone call or an email so that you could at least see if you have some input? Because what I want, Bill, I want an attorney for my stuff that has the values and the convictions and the professionalism that you have. So, and we'll have to run you through the copy machine here before we go. But would you welcome even general questions? Can somebody contact you from Georgia or New York?
Sure.
Okay.
That'd be great. And if I can help them find a good estate planning attorney wherever they are, I'd be happy to do that.
Good.
Would love to do that.
Good. I appreciate that. Before we wrap up, I want to get into one other thing, and this is going to put kind of legs on or wheels on the cart, or however we talk, because this is MercyToday Radio. And the specific purpose for us doing a radio show is to generate revenue for Mercy, for its projects and its partners around the world. And I just jotted down a little list here in consultation with my studio mates here. and particularly with Doug Hoffman, who is the executive director of Mercy, and he oversees and facilitates the work in the multiple regions and countries where Mercy serves. And to lift the vision, it would be like this. So, folks, listener, if you're thinking about, gosh, I really should get my stuff taken care of here, and I have some things that I care about, but I'm open to more. Let me just give a brief little list here of the kinds of things that Mercy is doing so that I know when I die and go to heaven, these projects, some or all of these projects, will have an extra boost because I took the time and paid the price ahead of time to do. So we've had on the show James Kigamwa, who runs a Bridge to Reading in several African nations. Wonderful ministry. This is bringing literacy to the people in villages, and it leads into church planting and discipleship, and the kinds of things that we want to see happening. There's another organization called Starfish Kids. This is a child sponsorship program, primarily where we're operating is in Haiti, and these are fantastic, wonderful kids who are in school and who are getting a good Christian education, and they're moving into a feeding portion of that also. I want to fund that. I want to help that, and that can go on and on.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah, and there's a Soy Setura, I wrote that down too, where moms are bringing their children across a border from Venezuela to Colombia. Do I have that right? And so what they offer there across the border, moms bring their kids, the kids go to school, and the kids get this soy product, this nutrient product, keeps them alive. And now the moms are learning work skills and business skills while the kids are in school. Fantastic. I want to encourage that. There's a new medical center that is we're hoping to build in Haiti, in the North Island of Haiti. It's called the Bethesda Medical Center, under fantastic leadership, doctoral medical leadership, and just fabulous activity there, where they are serving a poor, unhealthy population on the north end of the island in Haiti. We go to South Asia, where there is massive church planting going on, but also crisis relief at Rohingya refugee camp. They're placing Jesus wells for fresh, safe, clean water. They're doing evangelism and church planting in that refugee camp. Shalom Africa, that is meeting the needs of African nations and villages through some of the agricultural training and provision of seeds and training so that they can be self-sustaining. So you can take your little piece of land, you can grow your vegetables and other things and sustain yourself, maybe even have a little extra, take to market. Just fantastic. They have the people in place. They just need the funds. And to me, that's very moving because I would like to participate in all of these, and I can do that with a single designation of Mercy, and even if I can, identify some of the projects. But listener, I hope that you will have that kind of a heart. Think beyond this world. Think beyond your world and your life, and just understand that you have been entrusted with things and stuff, and they all cash out somehow, right? I mean, whether it's property or houses or land or boats or whatever. And I just want to appeal to you, listener, to have that kingdom mindset. And if you want help with that, contact us. Go to MercyToday.global, and we'll have all kinds of different ways that we can connect with you and be in contact and give some suggestions. And we're going to refer you to Bil Smith, first of all, as your estate planning attorney. And if you're not in the area where he is licensed in Oregon and Washington, then we'll get you onto somebody. So anybody else? I think that's my little sermon on Mercy, and I love it because I'm rather new to Mercy, about a year, and I've been doing the radio show for that period of time. But I love their work, and I want whatever I have to pass on, I want Mercy to be blessed because it touches lives, it changes entire villages, and it's a wonderful thing, and that is eternal work.
And it'd be a real privilege for me to be able to set up someone's estate plan who was giving a portion of their estate to Mercy.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Bill, any closing thoughts from you?
No, I really appreciate you having me on here, Dan, and to get to talk about something that I really am passionate about helping people to leave more to the things that they care about.
Wow, I like it. All right, that's it, folks. That is Afterwords, and we're done. Stay tuned in. Go to our other shows. Go to the website. There's lots of podcasts there, mercytoday.global. We'll see you next time. God bless you.